You're watching The Truth is Viral, the only news program on the internet trusted to deliver the truth since 2008. And now, here's your host, Mr. Bobby Powell.
And ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is Marcus Allen Weldon. 2 years ago, he defended himself with a weapon that he had a license to carry legally. And he was arrested and charged with 2 attempted murder charges along with a few other felonies. He was eventually exonerated. In my opinion, he never should have been arrested in the first place. Should have given him a parade down Main Street. He was coming home from a Christmas celebration, still in his Santa Claus outfit. So the media named him the Santa Claus Shooter, and that's the name of his book that he's put out. It's called The Santa Shooter, Guilty Until Proven Innocent. Marcus Allen Weldon, ladies and gentlemen.
What's going on? Hey. You know, Mother Nature is actually not too bad because when I first pulled up, I said, oh man, we're not going to be able to have this rally if this rain continues, but to my surprise, Mother Nature let up. So I'm happy to be here. I drove from Detroit, so you know that's about a good hour-and-a-half drive. Car trouble, but still made it out. Almost had to jump in the back with Rick Ector. I told him, I said, hey man, if this car keeps giving me trouble, you got me? He said, you know I got you. So, but I made it out here, so God bless. And like I said, I'm happy to be here. So, you know, I know a lot of you are thinking, well, the Santa Claus shooter, how did you shoot Santa? I mean, what's this name? How in the world did the New York Times dub you the Santa shooter? So I'm gonna give you a little background on the story, because I didn't shoot Santa, I actually was Santa. And unfortunately, I was leaving an event dressed as Santa because of it was the uniform for my event, working with the promotional company I was working with. And I got into an altercation while I was helping a friend, a young lady. She had a flat tire in Detroit. It was around 1 o'clock in the morning. 2 guys, as I was assisting her with her tire, 2 guys assaulted her, and it became a situation where I had to use my firearm to defend myself and her. Now, unfortunately, when it comes down to self-defense shooting, and kind of my topic of discussion here is, what is the aftermath of a self-defense shooting? A lot of people, you know, you get your license, you have your firearm, and you kind of never really think about the aftermath of what you will face after you use your firearm, after you decide to pull that trigger in self-defense. You may think, hey, I'm gonna have a parade downtown, you know, I'm a good guy, I just saved myself and someone else, I defended my family. Not necessarily true. My life as an activist, activism is something that I didn't choose, it chose me. After I was charged with 7 felonies and realized that, you know, it's not going to be the story that I thought it was going to be. I'm actually considered not the victim, but I'm considered the aggressor in this situation. Downtown Detroit, fired, I can't even tell you how many rounds I fired from my XDM 40 caliber, but there was this anxiety, this rush of adrenaline, and quickly, I realized that my life is turned upside down as I laid in the street handcuffed and was surrounded by 4 to 5 officers pointing their firearm at me, telling me to get on the ground. So, what should you expect? Well, first of all, we're going to talk about the media. I'm going to raise this mic up just a tad bit. I'm a little bit taller than Mr. Egner. Straighten my back out a little bit. So, of course, once you hear a story in the news about using your firearm, the first thing is you're demonized. You know, the media is going to paint this picture of you being this gun-toting thug that decided to be trigger happy, and especially if you're wearing a Santa Claus suit. That just doesn't look right at all, right? It's a good title for a story. Sells plenty of newspapers. They're going to destroy your character. My character was ran under the rug. I mean, I was, like I said, the Santa Claus shooter. I was the guy who decided to be, you know, was it John Wayne or, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger? I don't know, one of these characters off Grand Theft Auto. You know, they try to paint as many images as possible. I actually, the mugshot on the news that they used actually a picture of me when I was about 17 years old. I don't know how they found, but the picture was just looking so dark. And I said, man, I got a couple of good shots on Facebook you could have used, but I mean, if you want to use that one, I guess it paints the image perfect. And unfortunately, because of the media priming the minds of the public, I didn't have much success having people come to my aid in the beginning. I had to go and reverse this whole media manipulation by having my pastor, guys like Rick Ector, who came to my defense and get on. I don't know if you guys heard of the Let It Rip. There's a Channel 2, they have this debate format where you get guys on the couch and they get a chance to talk about hot topics. And I had to pretty much, through my pastor and my family, show that, hey, I'm not the guy the media is trying to make me out to be. The second part of it that really, 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 really destroys you in the aftermath of a self-defense shooting after you're just being labeled a criminal is you got to come out tons and tons of money. You're talking about a 401k that's going to now be used on legal fees. You're talking about a savings account that's going to be emptied out. I spent at least 50 grand in legal fees. Now, how many of you have 50 grand kind of laying in your bank account strictly for legal fees and strictly just in case, hey, if I have to use my firearm? How many of you? No one. Now, of course, there are programs out here that you can be involved in. You got the USCCA, you got NRA Carry Guard. There's so many firearms legal protection. But at the time, I did not know about these programs. And because of that, I had to come out of my own pocket, and I had to use my own money, and my family had to come up with money, my church had to come up with money, and I had to foot this bill that ended up becoming around, like I said, close to 50 grand. We're talking about bond, we're talking about I was put on tether, so that's $100 a week, house arrest. We're talking about forensic experts, attorney fees, we're talking about video experts. And I don't know if you know this stat, but 94% of cases end in plea deals because of the fact that people don't have the money to fight a case and take it to a jury or take it and sit in front of a judge and prove their innocence. So a lot of times people take this deal and say, hey, I'd rather go ahead and just get the first, couple years. And I was facing 7 felonies, so you figure, hey, 7 felonies is about 30 years in prison. Hey, let me take the 2 years or a year and get out on good behavior, and I'll be good to go. But of course, if you do that, you're going to be stamped with what? A felon. You're going to be labeled a felon, and you're no longer going to be able to seek an employment, right? So I had to, between the year of 2014 up to the year of 2016, stick to my guns, literally. And through all of the money and all of the headache, I had to fight it, waking up every morning, looking at the news, seeing my picture constantly on rotation, being labeled the Santa Claus shooter. I had to really, really find a way to not lose my mind. And one of the ways I did this was, of course, being around family and friends. I ended up writing a book about my experience. I figured, hey, if I do get arrested, and I'm not arrested, I've already been arrested. If I do get found guilty, or if I break down and take this plea deal, at least my daughter will know the full story. So, why do I carry? I had a friend of mine back in 2012 in Detroit. It gives me chills every time I talk about it, but he was murdered at a Coney Island, and he was carjacked. And because of the fact that we went to so many different gun-free zones, and a lot of times you go to the casinos and hanging out, a lot of times he would leave his firearm at home. He wouldn't even bring it because it was like, well, what's the point? I can't carry it anywhere. Everywhere I go, they're telling me leave it in the car, and I don't want no one to break into my vehicle, take my firearm. So he left his firearm. Unfortunately, that was his last day. He was murdered and killed and carjacked. At that point, I decided it is my, I have to embrace this right and start to carry a firearm to protect my own life so I won't become another victim. And it was then after that situation, and of course my case followed up a couple years later, I started to research and understand what the Second Amendment was all about. I started to study the Constitution. I started to study the Bill of Rights. And I realized very quickly, as you all know, it's not just about hunting, it's about self-defense and defending yourself against tyranny. What is tyranny? I mean, people think that that's just kind of an archaic term, but I disagree. Tyranny could be rogue law enforcement, it could be prosecutor misconduct, it could be Congress putting down laws that can enslave you with a pen. I mean, it can be all kind of ways you can look at tyranny, and unfortunately, we do not understand, well, I realize that especially in the urban area, we do not understand the Second Amendment and what it really stood for. So as I began my journey, I was fully exonerated in 2016 in July 21st, I'm sorry, June 21st, 2016. And I just was like, I gotta do something, you know, this information is so vital, I gotta get it out here, how do I do it? So, you know, who else can I talk to kind of help me brainstorm? Mr. Hector. Followed up with Rick, you know, he got me involved, he showed me the ropes, he said, hey, listen, man, he was a mentor, a friend, and I began to really just reach out and try to just inspire and get people to really look deep into this thing. And my story became kind of that gave me that voice. And I really, you know, as a father, I really realized that it's up to me to really just educate our youth, man. You know, I went to Detroit public schools. I had situations where guys carried firearms all through high school. You know, it was just normal, illegally. And violence was just normalized. I mean, it was something that you see every day. People get robbed for gym shoes. People get carjacked. Of course, like I said, my friend got carjacked. So it was like, okay, a lot of people in Detroit don't even know you can legally carry a firearm at the age of 21. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't even know that, like I said, there's programs out here that you can be involved in that if you do get in a self-defense shooting, they will put up your legal fees. So you won't have to worry about coming out your 401k, or you won't have to worry about emptying out your savings account. And this information for everyone here, it may seem like, you know, second nature. I mean, yeah, how do you not know that? But it's kept away intentionally, in my opinion, in the urban areas. It's something that we don't talk about. The gun is bad. It's you know, you don't need to carry a gun. Why do you need to carry a gun? Call 911 if you have a situation. Well, how long would it take 911, or how long would it take the law enforcement to show up? How quickly does it happen when someone pulls a gun out and says, give me your car, and pulls that trigger? You think law enforcement can be there within that matter of seconds? That's crazy. And of course, in Detroit, when you have a high crime area and you have drug gangs, I mean, you know, you name it, it's something to me is a no-brainer. And I just came up with this epiphany. I said, man, reading this Constitution, reading these Bill of Rights, and understanding what I'm involved in right now, if you give up your right to bear arms, you're a slave. And it's pretty much self-explanatory, because if you look in the history, even in not just Black America, but America in general, slaves or people who were in poverty were not allowed to own firearms. And then when slavery was abolished, it was a situation where if you owned the firearm, you were in trouble. That was the way they kept blacks enslaved. And that was one of the things that I learned, and I said, hey, you know, it's kind of being done the same way now, but just kind of, you know, in a clandestine way, because they're not giving you the information. So now you're not carrying. You don't believe that that's your right, but it is your right. It's your right. And like I said, for everyone here, it seems like, okay, that's second nature, but there's a lot of people who do not understand that. And when they see me, or see Mr. Hector, or see someone in Detroit who's a black man carrying a gun, it's automatically that stereotype of, oh, this guy must be a criminal. Oh no, I just know my right. And you know, it just baffles me that there's a lot of this stuff going on, and when you look at different news stations, the agenda is being pushed that we're supposed to be victims. Unbelievable. So in my story, seeing how I can make a difference with the platform that I was able to get on these different news outlets and really get out here and be this big advocate. There was so many people reaching out to me and saying, hey, my son's going through the same situation, or my brother's going through the same situation. He defended himself, and most of these activists didn't want to touch his case because it dealt with a firearm. And they automatically looked at him, or looked at the individual as, well, if you used a firearm, then you must have been wrong. You must have something must have went left, because, I mean, why do you have a gun? That's how they look at it. So it's an uphill battle. It's an uphill battle. You know, most people feel that, like I said, if you carry a gun, you're the bad guy. And through my book, I really give a detailed description of the aftermath that you're going to have to go through, breaking down the rights. It's kind of I call it the urban guide for gun owners. And it's not just for the urban area, but it's for everyone, because you all could be in a situation where you have to use your firearm. And then what? Are you ready? Are you proactive? Do you have these insurance policies in place? Do you have firearms legal protection? Do you have attorneys on speed dial? Do you have the information? Are you able to, in a calm state, after you're going through this adrenaline rush, think and say, okay, after the fight is over, the gun battle's over, there's things that's going to happen, you're going to get handcuffed, there may be a situation where the officers are coming in and they don't know who's who, so you need to make sure that you're not looking like the bad guy with a gun in your hand. So you want to make sure that in your mind you kind of play this over and over, this scenario over and over, so that you are constantly, you're aware of what's going to happen, and then it's second nature when it does happen. And I'm not going to say it is going to happen, but there's a possibility it is going to happen. So, if you want to reach out to me, my website is marcusweldon.com. I speak all over events like this. This is actually my third time, I believe, coming to the state capitol speaking at a gun rights rally. And every time I come, someone hasn't heard my story. And they can't believe that someone will be prosecuted for a justifiable self-defense. And let me tell you, I had video footage. So the video footage was held until after I decided to go to trial, because they wanted the preliminary exam to be pretty much rushed through so we could hurry up and get this guy, process him, and hopefully he would take a plea deal before the information comes out that he's innocent. These are some of the tactics that they use. Prosecuting misconduct is hard to prove, but if you do it in a clandestine way where you're able to say, okay, well, we're going to hold back information, hold back evidence, and hopefully by the time he runs out of money, he'll take the plea deal, then okay, then we'll release the evidence, and then you may have to go for an appeal. But guess what? You sign a plea deal, so that appeal is that much harder to do. So all of these things I map out in my book, all these things I talk about constantly, because it's going to be a long, arduous process. Like I said, 1 year and 3 months for me. And I had a friend of mine who, his mother had reached out to me when he was in prison. When he was in Wayne County Jail, and he did about 8 months, and I was going to court with his mom, and I was watching as he was coming from the back in his orange jumpsuit, he had his hands behind his back, handcuffed, and they were trying to get him to take a plea deal for 13 years. And I'm not going to say the only reasons, but one of the reasons why he didn't take the plea deal was because the discussion I had with his mother. And she looked at my story and she said, my son is innocent. I watched your case very closely, and I'm going to make sure that my son gets the same result. And I'm not going to let him fold and take that plea deal. That is one of the biggest weapons they use against gun owners, is that plea deal, when they know they don't have a case. So, thank you for having me out. I'll be here to talk afterwards and shake hands and take some pictures with you all, because I'm one of them guys that love to put pictures on my Facebook, so get ready. Show your good side, all right?
Well, you know, Marcus is right about tyranny coming in many forms. Got the tyranny of the individual. I don't know, probably some of you have watched my show before, and my coverage of the Bundy Ranch in 2014 and the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge up in good old Oregon. I barely escaped a federal prison term myself. I was an unindicted co-conspirator. And all I did was rebroadcast the streams of my good friend Peter T. Santilli, who is at this moment rebroadcasting this stream to up to 20 million people. Pete did stay in prison for 2 years without a trial, without the opportunity to post bail. They charged him for impeding government officials in the performance of their duty, which of course was a total load of crap. They dropped the charges against him in Oregon the day before the trial started. Then they sent him down to Nevada, where he languished in a federal prison for 680 some days. Never did a thing wrong. Wasn't carrying a gun, didn't threaten anybody. All he did was show the truth on a live stream, and it embarrassed government officials like Dirty Harry Reid, and they made sure that Pete paid for it. Because they're trying to intimidate people like me and Pete, people that go out there and tell the truth, people that don't share in the mainstream media lies. Well, they can't. They can do whatever they want to with our bodies, where these are just temporary households for us. We're destined for greater things.
Yes.
But let me tell you, we do get some justice here on earth. Stephen Myrie, the prosecutor in Nevada, was fired from his position after it came out that he had withheld 3,000 pages of exculpatory evidence that proved that the Bundys had done absolutely nothing wrong. The judge admonished him for flagrantly violating their constitutional rights and showing a complete disregard for the Constitution. And she dismissed the charges against the Bundys with prejudice. They will never be charged for those crimes again.
Yeah.
But they paid for their patriotism. 2 years in a federal prison. Like I said, with no bail, no opportunity to do anything except wait for a hammer to drop. You people are the 3%. You braved the weather to come out here and support this rally, and God love you and God bless every single one of you. Before we call into it, I want to introduce you to somebody very special, Denise Poplowski, the woman who coordinated this event. And I don't imagine that this will be the last one either. I hope that maybe sometime later in the summer we'll be able to do it again. You know, there's the Second Amendment March that's annually held here at the Michigan State Capitol is next month. I want you to come out to that. I'll be here, and we're going to have a great time. And don't forget, when you get home, find The Truth is Viral on Facebook. That's facebook.com/thetruithisviral. Very simple. Go find Rick Ector and subscribe to his page, Legally Armed in Detroit and Rick's Firearm Academy. Go find Marcus Weldon. And I want you to support the candidacy of Patrick Colbeck for the next governorship of the great state of Michigan. So thank you everybody for coming out. My name is Bobby Powell, and until next time, as always, God bless, Semper Fi, and hoorah!
Thank you for watching The Truth is Viral with your host, Bobby Powell. Make sure to follow The Apocalypse on Twitter @The Truth is Viral. Like The Truth is Viral on Facebook, and if you can, please remember to donate to the cause via PayPal at www.bobpowell.blogspot.com. Thank you for watching The Truth is Viral with your host, Bobby Powell. Make sure to follow The Apocalypse on Twitter at The Truth is Viral. Like The Truth is Viral on Facebook, and if you can, please remember to donate to the cause via PayPal at www.bobpowell.blogspot.com.